Heading over to New Year's Eve, Las Vegas Raiders and the Indianapolis Colts. This is 3.5 across the board in favor of the Colts at home over the Raiders. 42.5 is our total. Adam, if we take a look, this is a Raiders team that, to be fair, has played much better since the coaching change, has certainly at least looked like they have some sort of offensive identity, even though weirdly enough, that offensive identity doesn't feature Devontae Adams. But hey, the results speak for themselves, look much more like an actual football team in the NFL. Colts at home here. Looks like Pittman, who is now cleared concussion protocol, is going to go. Jonathan Taylor, a full go as well. So we should get the full Colts experience from an offensive perspective. But it is on the other side of a field goal.
It is, and I do not want anything to do with the side in this game. What I do really like in this game, maybe one of my favorite plays of the week, is the total under 42.5. Look at what happened with the Raiders last week and look closely before you decide that the Raiders are a team that could be live to score points here. 6 of them on offense last week. 6. Aiden O'Connell has been the 31st out of 32 quarterbacks in composite EPA per play and completion percentage over expected over the second half of the season. The other side of this, you might say, okay, well, Pittman's active. Gardner Minshew has been able to work well with Shane Steichen in situations like this. He's going to have Jonathan Taylor available to him. Let me read you some stats here. Second half of the season, defenses. Number 10, the Jets. 9, Denver, Atlanta, LA Rams, Baltimore, New England, Cleveland. The third-rated defense by EPA per play over the second half of the season has been the Chicago Bears. The number 1 has been the Miami Dolphins. And the number 2 defense by EPA per play second half of the year has been the Las Vegas Raiders. And they have been exceptionally good against the run. Max Crosby is not going to get consideration for Defensive Player of the Year, but he absolutely should, considering what a singular force he's been on this defense. So I see a weak Raiders offense that only put up 6 points last week. On the other side, I see an Indianapolis Colts defense that is going against an underrated Las Vegas side. I don't want to deal with trying to figure out what the turnover variance will be in terms of the spread in this game, but under is a strong look.
Yeah, Steven, I don't know if people, because there's really been no real reason to pay attention to the Raiders of late, realize how good this defense has been playing. It's like, it's one of those things where you if you had not bet on a game that involved the Raiders, you probably didn't really watch a game that involved the Raiders. And so you didn't realize that this defense has actually been, as far as at least EPA per play allowed, over the course of the season, a top 10 defense overall, which is just odd to say about this squad. So you can buy into at least what Adam's saying here from a total perspective, because you don't expect much out of the offense, and the defense has been actually standing up pretty good.
I'll take it a step further. They're number 1 against the rush as well. And we know that Steichen wants to run the ball here with Jonathan Taylor. Won't have Zach Moss in this game, but I think that this is going to be a matchup issue for the Colts. And, generally speaking, I would have probably given Adam a rebuttal on the under here because the Colts have been mostly an overtrain this season. However, they had the game against Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago that had a fluky over because Mike Tomlin called a meaningless timeout at the end of the game, and Steichen basically said, F you, I'm kicking a field goal, and that got us to the 43 we needed. Last week against the Falcons, they did not get to the over because the Colts offense was terrible without Michael Pittman. This is starting to tick up a little bit on the over. We were at 41.5. Now we're at 42. I'm guessing with more Colts interest on the over, as we've seen a lot of the season. If we got to 43 here, I'm probably with Adam on the under here, just because of, what we've seen with this defense and what we know that the Raiders offense just cannot move the ball. I mean, 62 yards passing last week in a win. You're going to have a hard time finding more instances of that in the past couple of years here. Just a very fluky win last week for the Raiders.
Yeah. There was a point where they did not complete a pass for 2 hours of real lifetime. Like you could have watched the game. You could watch the game in 2 hours of real lifetime, and they did not complete a pass. in an NFL game. So
I felt bad for all the kids that were watching the Nickelodeon broadcast on Christmas and realizing that this is actually some of the football that's in the NFL. It probably drove them to like watch other sports.
I would be tempted on the Colts if it was a flat 3, but now that we've gotten to the 3.5, I missed the 3. And so with that, it's just going to have to be a pass for me, unfortunately. Sometimes we miss the bet that we're trying to make, and that would have been the bet that I wanted to make.
The Colts aren't good, right? Like, they're really not a good team.
No.